Shalom, miserable humans! Well, we're in the month of February, and while most people would use this month to talk about romance or anything related to Valentine's Day, I decided to talk about something else. Since February is also Black History Month, I thought I would talk about The Wiz. For those of you who don't know, The Wiz is a black version of The Wizard of Oz that was released to Broadway in 1975. While I'm clearly not the most qualified to do something for Black History Month, given my whiteness, there is something related to The Wiz that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just thought Black History Month would be a great time to release it. I mean, you already know what it is, given the title of the video. I'm fan casting for a movie adaptation of The Wiz. You know, a good movie adaptation, not Diana Ross's vanity project. There are so many issues I have with the shipwreck that is the 1978 film adaptation of The Wiz, such as the casting of Diana Ross's Dorothy, the horrible cinematography, the appalling writing, hideous visuals, cheap costumes and production values, and so on. If you want a more detailed version on why this movie is awful, I would highly recommend the review from Musical Hell, one of my all-time favorite YouTubers. First of all, I understand there are those that consider this movie to be a classic and a staple within the black community. That is understandable, and I get that. But also keep in mind that that doesn't exempt the film from criticism. For me, it was such a letdown and a horrible adaptation of the source material that butchered the stage version of The Wiz, which is one of my favorite Broadway shows. Thankfully, we got the NBC live show, which was a superior adaptation. However, as the title of the video has stated, this video is about who I would cast in a remake of The Wiz, should it ever happen, and it would be a very welcomed remake. Also, as a side note, I would also want a team of black people actually working on the film, because one of the issues with the 1978 adaptation was that it was made by white people and it shows. When making a film about a minority group, it's important to have that minority group working on the film. So I want a black director, preferably from the LGBTQ+ community, because of how the world of Oz is a very big part of that community, as well as a black costume designer, screenwriter, hair and makeup people, and just have everyone working on it be black. I won't be casting who I would want in those roles for the sake of my own sanity, what little I have. I will only be casting for the actors. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion, so there's no need to be an about it. Now without any further delay, let's ease on down the road. Starting off with Dorothy's less active parental figure, Uncle Henry. In the case of Uncle Henry, he has never really been much of a character in The Wiz, or even The Wizard of Oz in general. When it comes to The Wiz, at the most, he usually just has a line that is shouted off stage, so I would personally expand Uncle Henry's role to help show more of what Dorothy has to try to get back home to. We could even turn the song, The Feeling We Once Had, from Aunt Em's big solo to Dorothy into a duet between them. It would still be a song directed towards Dorothy and not a romantic duet, but still give Uncle Henry more to do and show the genuine love between Dorothy and her aunt and uncle. Anyway, I feel like we need someone who has a strong presence, since he works on a farm, but also someone who is tender and down to earth, because it's clear that Aunt Em is the one who is in charge. I feel like Norm Lewis fits this perfectly. He has a strong presence as shown with his performance as King Triton from the Broadway version of The Little Mermaid, but also has a softness to him that would make him a very loving uncle that truly loves and cares for Dorothy, as a softer one of her legal guardians. Plus, considering the character isn't that prominent, it makes sense to go with someone who isn't a big-named Hollywood actor, but still has the acting chops as well as the mermazing singing chops, because he has one of the best male voices I've ever heard in my life.
We can make it so. Someone is on your side. Someone is on your side.
So Norm Lewis as Uncle Henry. Next up, we have the stern but loving Aunt Em. This is a role that requires someone who has a strong presence, more so than Uncle Henry. We need an actress who just commands respect and is someone you clearly wouldn't want to make mad, but also someone who has a soft side so that Aunt Em's love for Dorothy can be genuine. This is a very hard choice, but I ultimately decided to go with Yvette Nicole Brown. Yvette just feels right for someone like Aunt Em. Yes, she's known for her comedic characters, but she's also played characters that just command respect and have have a powerful presence, but can also be tender and loving when needed. Plus, I feel like with a big number like The Feeling We Once Had, you need someone who is at least fairly well known like Yvette to help bring in the audience. But she's not so well known to where it would feel like bringing in Beyonce just to have her only be in the movie for a few minutes. She's well known, but not so well known that people would feel like they're getting ripped off. But she also has a mermazing singing voice that we really need to hear more of, and will be perfect for the song.
Hey, you need to shut your mouth, open up your eyes and see that you don't know nothing, nothing about me.
So Yvette Nicole Brown as Aunt M. Now we move on to the Witches of Oz, starting with the first witch that Dorothy encounters, Addaperle, the Good Witch of the North. This is a witch that most people tend to forget about, due to how in the 1939 film, they combined her and Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, together. In The Wiz, she is portrayed as a wisecracking showgirl that isn't very good at magic, and can be absent-minded, which makes her forget to tell Dorothy that she could have just gone home this whole time with the silver slippers. For her, we need an actress that is great at comedy, and wisecracking, and isn't afraid to be a little silly. But just like the rest of the cast, she needs to be a great singer. This was a hard decision to make, but I ultimately decided to go with Raven-Symoné. I mean, do I even need to list her comedic resume with her work on That's So Raven and its spin-off Raven's Home? She's just a masterclass of comedy and becomes one with the character. All the many characters that the character of Raven Baxter disguises herself as. She's undeniably funny. Not to mention, the character of Raven Baxter is very much a prima donna, so that makes her perfect for the showgirl aspect. She's definitely not afraid to act silly. Not to mention, she's an amazing singer, and I would love to see her be in a musical. So Raven-Symoné as Addaperle. Next up we have Glinda, the Good Witch of the South. Let's face it, the actress for this mainly just has to have a phenomenal singing voice for her big musical number. However, the actress needs to have warmth, tenderness, and gentleness to her, as she's the one who brings hope to Dorothy and acts like a motherly figure to her. This was honestly the easiest choice to make in my opinion, and that choice is Anika Noni Rose. I mean, she has one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard in my life. Plus, with her performance in Jingle Jangle A Christmas Journey, we've seen not only her amazing vocal range, but also that she makes the most of what limited screen time she has. Not to mention, that role showed her having the warmth, tenderness, and gentleness of a mother, which is needed for a character like Glinda. Also, she was originally supposed to be Dorothy in a TV movie adaptation of The Wiz for The Wonderful World of Disney back in the 90s, but the film never came to be because Disney was not able to get the rights. So this would be a full circle moment for Anika. So Anika Noni Rose as Glinda. Next up, we have the most remembered witch of them all, the Wicked Witch of the West herself, Evillene as she's called in this version. The character definitely needs to be intimidating, sinister, loud, and have a strong presence to her that would intimidate anyone. Not to mention that since the character has one of the best musical numbers, No Bad News, the actress also needs to have an absolutely brilliant singing voice. But the voice also needs to be able to belt and shout without it sounding grating to the ears because of how the character is very angry during that number, being wicked and all. There are many women that would do great in the role, but in my opinion, the best choice is definitely Jennifer Hudson. I mean, first of all, she has one of the best female voices of all time, but we all knew that. Secondly, she definitely has the acting chops to pull it off. Her role as Effie White from Dreamgirls was her first acting role, and she ended up getting an Oscar. I have absolute confidence that she'll be able to play a villain flawlessly with her insane amount of talent. She has played justifiably angry and sassy characters, but I honestly think she has the skills to pull off a character so different from what she's played before with Evillene. She definitely has a strong and powerful presence to her. So Jennifer Hudson as Evillene. Now we have gone to the titular character himself, The Wiz. For a character like this, you need an actor that is an absolute showboating showman that is perfectly comfortable with making a spectacle of himself. However, he also needs to come off as intimidating, since The Wiz is said to be the most powerful being in all of Oz. I mean, he's not, but you know what I mean. He also needs a level of sincerity along with his deception to help the audience sympathize with him when he's found out to be a fake. Not to mention, he needs to have a great singing voice, but also be able to show off his big personality without sacrificing the vocal quality. I almost went with Alfonso Ribeiro since he has a great voice, a large personality, and has played similar characters with his portrayal of Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. However, I ultimately decided to go with Billy Porter. I mean, who has a bigger and grander personality than him? He would absolutely eat up this role and would look fabulous in a stunning and opulent costume because it's Billy freaking Porter. He actually gave one of the two standout performances from that awful Cinderella movie with Camila Cabello, the other stand-up performance being Idina Menzel. Not to mention he can sing as well. So Billy Porter as The Wiz. Now we move on to Dorothy's traveling companion, starting with the Cowardly Lion. This is a role that requires someone who is absolutely mermazing at comedic roles, due to how the character is meant to be very funny but also sympathetic with how cowardly he is. He needs to appear strong physically to be a huge contrast with how he is a coward because of how you wouldn't associate someone so big and strong with that. Plus, he needs to have a deep, booming singing voice. I ultimately decided to go with Joshua Henry for the role, who actually did play the Tinman in a stage production of The Wiz, but I feel like he's better suited for the Cowardly Lion. When I saw him as Gaston in the 30th anniversary special of Beauty and the Beast, he really showed that he is great with comedy. Not to mention, he has a great voice.
And now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a
So Joshua Henry as the Cowardly Lion. Next up we have the Tin Man. This is the character that is very difficult to play. You need an actor that can be robotic but lively at the same time. Show some emotions, but not too much to the point that the audience feels like it's so obvious that he already has a heart while never losing his sincerity. And have the acting chops, but also have an incredible singing voice. It's a hard role to play, and honestly, I couldn't think of anyone better to play him than Neo, who has already portrayed the character in The Wiz Live. I mean, he hits all the right notes and perfectly captures the character. Yeah, this was an easy one and technically cheating, but it's my list and I can do whatever I want. I mean, just look at this.
And if a tear came to my eye, think of all the wounds they mean.
So Neo as the Tin Man. Again. Next up, we have the Scarecrow. This is a character that needs just the right actor to play the role because he needs to be lively and a great dancer, but also someone who is a bit clumsy, which makes sense considering he was tied to a pole for who knows how long. But the character also needs to have a strong sense of leadership that looks effortless without it being too obvious. Plus, the actor has to have a sincerity that makes the character instantly likable and sympathetic. Not to mention, the actor needs to have a phenomenal singing voice, due to the fact that no matter what song they decide to use for the Scarecrow, whether it's I Was Born the Day Before Yesterday or You Can't Win, it's gonna require someone with some strong vocal chops, especially when the latter was performed by the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. The choice I went with will probably be polarizing due to the fact that it's different from what we've seen before, but it's Janelle Monáe. Yes, traditionally the Scarecrow has been portrayed by a man, and Janelle is non-binary and uses she, her, and they, them pronouns. But the world of Oz has always been important to the LGBTQ+ community, so why not have black people that are from that community in the movie? I mean, I've casted Raven-Symoné and Billy Porter, both of whom are gay, so why not have someone who is non-binary? I mean, the character of Ozma from the books is considered a trans icon. Anyway, Janelle has played characters that are natural-born leaders like Peg from the live-action remake of Lady and the Tramp. Not to mention, Janelle just has a sincerity to her in general that feels so natural and down-to-earth, which is perfect for the Scarecrow. She can be wise, but also be vulnerable, which is what you need for the character. Plus, she has been known to wear some baggy outfits, so I feel like that would translate well for the Scarecrow. I don't know, something about her just feels perfect for the Scarecrow for me. Not to mention, she obviously has the vocal chops and energy to pull off the musical numbers.
Although dear is ever so near.
So Janelle Monáe as the Scarecrow. And finally, we've gone to the protagonist and the most important casting choice of them all, Dorothy Gale. This is a role that can make or break the film, due to the fact that we're supposed to be invested in the character and her journey with the struggles she must face. That's one of the reasons why Diana Ross's version failed due to how horribly miscast she was, and that casting led to a lot of changes in the script and the crew, which made things worse. This is a very difficult role to cast because you need someone who has innocence but is also spunky and feisty without being a raging fireball. You need someone who has a mermazing singing voice for the vocal demands of the songs that she sings, as well as the acting chops to play a wide array of emotions. You need someone who is no younger than 10, but also no older than 16, or at least can look like she is. In all honesty, I feel like for this role, you would need to have an open casting call and allow an unknown actress between the ages of 10 and 16 to get her big breakout role. That's personally how I do it, but I can't exactly fan cast by doing that. It was a difficult decision, but I ultimately decided to go with Selena Smith, who is best known for playing Annie in the NBC show Annie Live. I mean, much like Dorothy, Annie is spunky, adventurous, mischievous, kind-hearted, sweet, feisty, precocious, full of a lot of spirit and heart, and as a dog lover to boot. So honestly, she has already proven that she is qualified to play the role of Dorothy. She is also age appropriate, with her currently being 14 years old at the time of recording this video. Not to mention, she has an incredible voice. While I would still prefer an unknown, especially if it's a dark-skinned black girl because they have a harder time getting roles in the industry, Selena would still be a phenomenal choice. Plus, I would argue that she is still an unknown because she isn't very well known outside of Annie Live, so that would make it easy to imagine her as Dorothy compared to someone who is more well established. So, Selena Smith as Dorothy. And so that was my fan cast for a movie adaptation of The Wiz. Sadly, at the time of recording this video, there are unfortunately no current plans on doing a remake of The Wiz that is more faithful to the original stage show. In an era of remakes, reboots, and revivals, a remake of The Wiz would be very much welcomed, but until then, at least we have the more amazing NBC live show The Wiz Live. While it's not completely accurate with its new backstory for Dorothy and adds some elements from the 1978 film, it actually utilizes it better and pulls it off incredibly well. I would highly recommend it to anyone, but I would still like another film adaptation with this cast. But anyway, what did you guys think? Do you agree with any of my casting choices? Do you think The Wiz needs a remake? What are your casting choices? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me on my other social media accounts in the links below. I'm the Wicked Merman from Under the See ya!